The evening of the grand recital arrived with a quiet elegance. The concert hall stood tall and proud in the center of the city, glowing softly under warm golden lights. People dressed in fine clothes walked through the large doors with excitement on their faces. Music lovers, families, and honored guests filled the seats one by one. Everyone expected a beautiful night of talent and brilliance. Backstage, many performers prepared for their moments under the spotlight. Some adjusted their stylish outfits. Others practiced difficult musical passages on small keyboards. Confident laughter and proud voices echoed through the waiting rooms. Among all of them sat a modest woman on a simple wooden chair. She was different from the rest. Her dress was plain, clean and neat, but without sparkle or glamour. She wore no shining jewelry. Her hair was tied back gently. In her hands she held a few old music sheets folded carefully at the corners. No one gathered around her. No one wished her good luck. Most people did not even notice she was there. She did not seem to mind. The woman had arrived early that evening, carrying only a small bag and her quiet determination. She had signed up for the recital weeks ago, encouraged by a close friend who believed in her talent. But now, sitting among so many confident musicians, she felt small and invisible. From the hallway, she could hear the excited crowd entering the hall. The sound made her heart beat a little faster. She took a slow breath and reminded herself why she had come. Not for applause, not for praise, only for the love of music. A well-dressed organizer walked into the room and called out names from a list. Each performer nodded proudly when their name was announced. When he finally spoke her name, his voice carried no special interest. It was just another item on the schedule. She softly answered, "Yes, I am here." The organizer barely looked at her before moving on. The recital began right on time, one by one. Performers walked onto the bright stage and played their pieces. Some played fast and powerful music that made the audience clap with excitement. Others played classical pieces with perfect technique. The maestro in charge sat near the front row, listening carefully and smiling with approval. Everything went exactly as expected. The audience enjoyed the show, yet nothing truly surprised them. It was simply another formal musical evening backstage. The modest woman listened to every performance with sincere admiration. She clapped quietly from behind the curtain for each musician. Instead of feeling jealous, she felt happy for them still. A small voice inside her wondered, "Will I be enough when my turn comes?" As time passed, her name slowly moved closer on the list. Finally, late in the evening, the organizer approached her again. "You are next," he said quickly. Her hands turned slightly cold. She nodded, stood up, and walked toward the side of the stage. From there she could see the large hall. Rows of people sat in comfortable red seats. The grand piano waited in the center under a bright, white light. It looked beautiful. It also looked frightening. The performer before her finished with a strong final note. The crowd applauded warmly. Then the announcer stepped forward. "Our next performer," he said without much excitement, "is the next participant on the program. No special name plainly. No special introduction. No long list of achievements, just a simple announcement." A few people in the audience flipped through their programs, trying to see who she was. Most did not bother. She walked onto the stage. Her steps were calm, but shy. The bright lights made her blink for a moment. She could feel hundreds of eyes on her, yet none of them truly expecting anything. Somewhere in the crowd, a man whispered, "I've never heard of her." Another quietly replied, "Probably just a beginner." The maestro glanced at her politely. Already preparing to hear another ordinary performance, the woman reached the grand piano and sat down. For a few seconds, she did nothing. She simply looked at the black and white keys in front of her. As if greeting an old friend in that small silent moment, she forgot about the audience. She forgot about the hall, the maestro, and the expectations. All that remained was her and the music she loved. She placed her fingers gently on the piano. Then she began to play. The first notes were soft, almost like a gentle whisper floating through the air. Something unexpected happened. The quiet chatter in the hall slowly stopped. Her melody was not loud or dramatic. It was simple, delicate, and deeply emotional. Each note felt honest, as if it came from a sincere heart rather than trained hands. A few audience members looked up from their programs. The maestro lifted his head. The modest woman continued playing. Her body relaxed, her face peaceful. The piano seemed to speak through her, telling a story without words. The hall grew more and more silent. People who had been half listening now sat fully still. The emotional warmth of her music touched something gentle inside them. It was not a perfect technical performance like the others. It was something different, something real. Her fingers moved across the keys with natural grace. Every note carried feeling. It was as if she was sharing a lifetime of quiet dreams, struggles, hopes. In hidden strength, the maestro leaned forward in his seat. He had not expected this. Not at all. Around him, the audience sat completely absorbed. Some closed their eyes to feel the music better. Others watched her with new respect. No. One whispered. Any more? No one looked away. The modest woman, who had been invisible all evening, was now the only person in the world that mattered. Her melody slowly grew deeper, richer, more powerful. And as the emotional music filled the silent hall, the maestro realized with surprise that something truly special was happening on his stage tonight. He folded his hands and stared at her in disbelief. Who was this quiet woman? Where had such beautiful music been hiding? The audience felt the same question rising in their hearts. The woman kept playing, unaware of the effect she was creating. For her, this was not a performance. It was simply her soul speaking through the piano. The final part of her, peace, began to approach. Every listener could feel it. The maestro slowly rose from his seat. Unable to hide his amazement any longer, he had ignored her before. Now, he could not look away. The last soft note of her melody hung gently in the air, like a fragile feather floating in silence. For a brief moment, the entire concert hall forgot how to breathe. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the smallest sound seemed afraid to break the magic she had created. The modest woman sat at the piano, her hands resting calmly on the keys. She had played with her whole heart, unaware of how deeply she had touched everyone around her. To her, it was only music. To the audience, it was something far more. The maestro stood frozen near the front row. His eyes were wide, filled with surprise and respect. He had spent his life listening to talented performers. Yet this simple, quiet woman had just reached a place inside him that no other musician that evening had reached. Slowly, the woman lowered her hands and took a gentle breath. The silence continued. Then, suddenly, a single person began to clap. The sound echoed through the hall like the first drop of rain before a storm. Another person joined. Then another, and within seconds, the entire audience rose to their feet in thunderous applause. The hall filled with loud cheers and heartfelt clapping. People smiled at each other in disbelief. Some wiped quiet tears from their eyes. Others nodded with deep admiration. No one could believe that the performer they had ignored was the one who had moved them the most. The modest woman stood up from the piano, startled by the reaction. Her cheeks turned slightly warm. She had not expected this at all. She bowed politely, still shy, still humble, exactly as she had been before. But now, the way people looked at her was completely different. The maestro walked onto the stage himself. That was something he rarely did. He approached her slowly, with honest respect in his expression. For a moment, he simply looked at her as if trying to understand how such powerful emotion had come from such a quiet soul. Then he shook her hand gently. "Thank you," he said in a soft voice meant only for her. That was truly beautiful. Those simple words meant more to her than any trophy or award. She nodded, unable to speak her heart full, as she walked off the stage. Many eyes followed her with admiration. The same people who had barely noticed her before now whispered kind things about her performance. A few even hoped she would return to play again. Backstage, the atmosphere felt completely changed. Performers who had once ignored her now greeted her warmly. Some congratulated her with sincere smiles. Others admitted that her music had touched them deeply. The organizer, who had barely looked at her earlier now, spoke to her with new respect. She thanked everyone politely, still calm, still modest, but inside, a quiet joy was slowly blooming. The recital continued with the remaining performers, yet something had shifted. Even the audience seemed different. The emotional honesty of her music had left a gentle mark on the entire evening after the program ended. People gathered in the hallways, talking excitedly about the performances, again and again. One topic returned in their conversations: the shy woman at the piano. Many wondered where she had learned to play. Some asked if she was a professional musician. Others simply said they hoped to hear her music again one day. No one spoke about her simple dress anymore. No one cared that she had no fancy background. All they remembered was how she had made them feel. Later that night, when most guests had left, the modest woman sat alone for a moment on an empty chair near the stage. The hall was quiet now. The bright lights were slowly being turned off one by one. She thought about everything that had happened. She remembered how invisible she had felt when she first arrived. She remembered the nervous fear in her heart. And she remembered the moment her fingers had touched the piano keys. A small, grateful smile appeared on her face. She realized something important. For years, she had played music only in small rooms for herself or a few close friends. She had never believed she was special. She had never imagined standing on a big stage or touching so many hearts. Tonight had changed that, not because she wanted fame, not because she wanted attention, but because she finally understood that her quiet gift had value, real value. On her way out of the hall, the maestro stopped her once more. He encouraged her to continue playing, to share her music with the world, and to never doubt the beauty of her talent again. She listened carefully, grateful for every word, as she stepped outside into the cool night air. The city lights shining softly around her, she felt lighter than she had in years. The same woman who had walked in unnoticed was now leaving with a heart full of confidence and hope. The world had not changed, but she had. In the days that followed, she returned to her simple life. She practiced piano in her small home just as she always had, yet something inside her was different now. She played with more courage, with more belief, with more quiet joy. Sometimes she thought back to the recital and wondered how many other people in the world felt invisible, just as she once had. She hoped her story might remind them of something important: that talent does not need to shout, that worth does not need to shine brightly to be real, and that even the softest voice can touch the deepest hearts. The memory of that evening stayed with everyone who had been there. Long after the applause faded, people remembered the feeling her music had given them: warmth, hope, gentle inspiration. She never became loud or proud. She never changed who she was. But she carried one beautiful truth with her. From that night forward, she no longer needed to be noticed, because she finally knew her own value, and that was enough. Message of the story: sometimes the most powerful people in the room are the quiet ones. True talent does not need bright lights or loud voices. It only needs a sincere heart and the courage to be shared.